What's up, YouTube? It's Joe Catchpaulia sitting on the couch making some money investing in fractional real estate online, as usual. Today, I'm going to go over a couple of things. I'm going to go through some of the highlights from the Mogul monthly webinar, some new info on there, just give a little bit of color around some of the questions that I asked and what my takeaways were. But also just mention, all the highlights in case you didn't watch it. If you're not watching it, I think you're messing up because they put out a lot of good info and they answer all your questions. In addition to that, I'm also going to talk about a new feature on LoftyAssist, which I think is awesome. It's something I asked about a little while back, and it is on there now. It seems like it may be a little bit of a work in progress, but I think it's going to be great info. So I'll jump into that at the end. But so first of all, let's see. Number one, I'm going to say lots of things about how much I love Mogul. They have quickly become my favorite platform for long-term real estate investing. Just because I do that doesn't mean that you should, right? Like, doesn't mean you should invest. You want to do your own due diligence. Speaking of doing your own due diligence, this is always what triggers it in my mind. In the description of this video, I have links to all the places where I currently invest on fractional real estate. Just because I invest on there doesn't mean that you should. You want to do your own due diligence on those platforms and on any of the properties on there. There's also a Discord link in there to a generic fractional real estate investors Discord where we talk about a whole bunch of different platforms. There's somewhere around 100 of us now, and there's a lot of smart people in there talking about deals. There's some shenanigans that go on, but there's also a lot of good info where people talk about fractional real estate investing on a lot of different platforms. I'm repeating myself way too much, but I'm going to just keep going because I actually had to stop this a couple times because it froze. So sorry about that. But I wanted to thank Ike. I think his name's Ike Arified on there. He put a little list together of what he took away from the webinar. I actually added a couple of things, and then one of the things we heard a little differently. I went back and listened to it again. I think it may. I'm not 100% sure I heard it right or if he did, but I'm going to just talk about that also. So first of all, I asked the question about the Hugo or the Hugo. This is one of the more. This is their most recent property. It's in Dallas. It's a short-term rental. One of the things that threw me off when I was doing the research on this one is it's in a Zone X flood zone, but it's what they call a shaded Zone X. So it is in a shaded area, which normally I just avoid the shaded areas altogether. But this is a Zone X, which is usually the zone that I'm looking for. Wasn't really sure what to make of that, so I asked them about it. They didn't directly address, what's the deal with the shaded zone X, although you can read about it. I mean, it is really just that it's only zone X because of the levy is what I took away from all the reading that I did on it. But what they mentioned, and I hadn't remembered this, but they buy supplemental flood insurance on all of their properties, which it is one of the things I like about them a lot, right? Is that they are very conservative in the way they do their insurance and reserves and basically, leverage. A lot of the stuff they're doing, they're very conservative. And so, I don't always get a supplemental flood insurance on properties, but I think it's a smart thing to do, especially in situations where you have these entities that just have to be self-sufficient, right? It's better to over-insure than under-insure. It's better have more reserves than you need, especially when you can do all that and still produce the types of yields that they're doing. So anyway, I was perfectly satisfied with that answer. Doesn't mean that you should be, but I did go ahead and just buy a little piece of this. Not as big as some of the other ones, but it's going to be my new, I think, standard small investment for the moment. And that being said, like on all of these, even though I keep buying little pieces of quite a few of these, I'm not going to put a huge portion of my net worth into any of these platforms yet because I am still very much in experimentation stage, right? As much as I like everything that these guys are doing, um, it is a relatively new company still. They still have a lot to prove to me, right? Like, it doesn't mean they're not going to, but I just like to point that out because every time I watch their stuff, I do like them more. I think that they're headed in the right direction. But so yeah, I was perfectly happy with the answer to that, and so I moved on. I also asked, this is the Johnson 2. This is the short-term rental in Austin. I have a piece of the Johnson 1, which is another short-term rental in Austin that's nearby. This one I have a much harder time. It looks like it's going to have a tremendous yield, but I just can't wrap my head around the valuation. And so I think I've asked, maybe it might be the third time in a row that I've asked a question like around this, because they're not, they have, it has appraised, it appraised for the 2.2 that it's under contract for. I couldn't find comps when I searched on my own that made me feel good with that price. They provided these comps, and I asked about like where did these comps come from, and they said these are the ones from the appraisal, but they're so much bigger. These properties are, 3,300 square feet versus 2,200, or sorry, versus 2,400. I mean, it's almost 50% larger. It's not quite, but it's like 40% larger, something like that. So, um, I have a really hard time thinking that those are the best comps for this property. But anyway, it did appraise. They said it appraised right at the 2.2. I still get nervous about that because, appraisers typically have the contract in hand. Um, Miraculously, most appraisals come out right at the contract price. And so, I'm more interested in the data that I see in an appraisal than I am in just did it hit the number or not, because, frankly, they quite almost always hit the number. I mean, sometimes they'll be low, and I really was curious if this one would be. But more than anything, I wanted to see, okay, what is that number really, what comps did they use? What adjustments did they make? Because I would like to buy a piece of this one, but I can't do it if I can't feel comfortable with the value, right? And so that's why I just keep asking that, questions about it, because I'm hoping they'll say, oh, well, this is more like those properties because XYZ. Even though it's a little bit smaller, there, maybe there's some square footage that is, usable but not really included in the livable square footage, or something like that. I really want to understand, is there something, but they just said, hey, it actually appraised, and sort of just moved on from there. I don't know. It's just going to be one that I don't buy a piece of. I'm buying probably two out of every three that they put up though. So I think there's nothing wrong with skipping some, even if it is, a cool property that seems like it's gonna. I mean, that's the thing is it seemed like the yield is going to be really great compared to a lot of theirs. But anyway, we're moving on from that. One thing that they mentioned, they're hiring a developer and an analyst. I thought this was really interesting news. If anybody, I think there's probably people in our Discord that are either would be interested in being an analyst on the real estate side or a developer for them, right? I mean, we got a lot of you tech nerds in here. I don't really even, I mean, I guess a developer is like you guys are the ones that make the websites and stuff, I think. Um, Hopefully that's not too offensive, right? I'm just kidding. But like the analyst job, I think this would be like if I were a brand new, not even brand new, but like a couple years out from like a finance program, and I wanted to do real estate analysis. Like I feel like this is the type of company that would be amazing to work for. It's small, entrepreneurial. They're in an industry where I think they're going to grow really big. I mean, they've proven that they can grow. Um, I think, other than, yes, I think there's some regulatory risk, but I think they are being smart about how they're tackling that. Sorry about that. My screen recorder's having all kinds of problems today. I think it was that webinar tab being up for whatever reason messes with it. For some reason, some websites when they're up, my screen recorder really struggles and it just keeps crashing. But I don't know. Hopefully we're past that. But I was just saying, I think it'd be a lot of fun to work for them. It'd be, I think they have a lot of runway as far as like if I were early in a career, it'd be a great opportunity. But I don't know. I don't know what it's like to work there. That's just my impression. So looking forward to seeing that. And if anybody in the Discord, is going to jump on that, let me know because I'm super excited to know if there's other people that end up going to work there. Um, they also mentioned there's an Arizona pad split coming out soon. I own a little piece of the roads. It was like the second one that I bought a piece of, and I got a very small piece. At the time, I didn't fully grasp how they dealt with inspection issues, and so I went into that making some assumptions that probably weren't great. More conservative of assumptions, but it's been a really good performer so far. So hopefully they're able to find similar deals out there, and if so, I'll probably be loading up on those. There was a question about, you're going to be able to buy on their platform using USDC soon. It seems like that's going to come out in about a week. And also, you can already invest on there through a 401k or self-directed IRA, but they're trying to make it a little bit more of a automated process to do that. And again, that was like end of week or next week that should come out. They mentioned, about the cadence of deals that they're going to continue to put out, a deal a week or more. Their goal is to really always have 5 or 6 active properties on the platform, and it seems like they're doing a pretty good job of that. I think I counted today there were four. No, maybe there were 5. I'm not going to click back to it because, again, I don't want my thing to crash. I don't know what's going on with that. Um, they mentioned there's going to be Seattle and Colorado area Airbnbs coming up soon, and that they all also that they looked at multifamily but didn't really say anything more about that. Um, and then went into why they're not doing commercial, and I think that's smart of them, right? Like they're sticking with what they're good at, and for a lot of reasons, if you can make the types of returns that they are here, it doesn't even make any sense for them to try to do something else, I think. Um, there's a question about, like, as they're growing, are they going to be able to keep putting out high quality deals? And this is one of the things where me and Ike heard this a little bit differently. I went back and listened again. I think it's because it's I don't think it's so they mentioned, okay, we've already hit, each last week we had peak demand again, so that there's, constant demand for more deals. Um, at the same time, Joey mentioned, they have a really good pipeline of deals, and they have some good deals that they're turning away, like that they're having to pass on. And so it sounds strange to have, like, neither a supply or a demand problem. But what I think I heard him say really is that they have a capacity problem to, like, actually take the deals, put them in the pipeline, get them to closing. That they don't have enough capacity to be able to do more deals in that because of that, and that makes sense why they would be hiring an analyst, right? Like helping on that side of the deal, that part of the deal flow. Anyway, I thought it was really interesting to hear him talk about how much deal flow they have. It's not easy to find these off market deals, especially ones that have the types of returns that they're finding. So I think that they must have a really amazing, network or something that they're doing on the back end to make that work. I'd love to hear more about what they're doing, but obviously, I think that's probably a little bit of a trade secret on their part, right? They don't want everyone to know how they're finding all these amazing deals. Again, just because I say they're amazing, I can very confidently say that on average their deals are better than deals on Lofty. On average they're higher yielding than ones I've seen on Arrived and whatnot. But it is, it doesn't mean just because I like them doesn't mean that you should invest in them, right? Do your own due diligence. You can tell I just am uncomfortable with how much I like the platform. Because I never want to be in a spot where somebody buys into something because I said so, and then sometime down the road it doesn't work out because, oh, they were actually getting great deals because it was actually like a Bernie Madoff situation, right? I don't think that's what's happening here, but you just never know, right? And so that's why I always encourage people to dig into stuff as much as they possibly can. Speaking of digging in, one of the things that look at that segue. I'm getting good at this YouTube stuff, right? Um, I'm doing all right. So one of the things that they mentioned is that there are a number of Easter eggs on the platform. I know what this means in, like, video games. It's like when you see little things that are, like, hidden in there that, like, maybe a reference to something else or whatnot. But they said, like, people aren't catching on to them. So I haven't noticed any. I think that if you have, let me know in the Discord, like, because I'm curious. I'm curious what they're talking about. They also mentioned they're going to have some merch coming out, probably in time for next month's webinar. Um, I thought it was interesting that in the chat for the webinar there was probably more activity about the merch than about anything else. I'm just not a person that wears a lot of merch, right? Like, I don't, I wear my real estate guru hat a lot, mostly to, like, start real estate conversations with people. People will be like, "What's that about? Are you a real estate guru?" Because it's kind of stupid and funny. But I don't know that I'd wear a shirt that says Mogul on it. If you saw my very first video about this platform, to me, it comes across as kind of a scammy name, right? But at the same time, maybe because of that, it will create sort of that discussion, right? So I don't know. I don't know if I'd wear it or not. I probably would because, it would actually go well with the real estate guru hat, right? Um, but let me know if that's is something that, you guys do pretty regularly, or, I actually do know a couple people that just sort of collect the merch. They don't ever wear it, but they have a whole bunch of it from different stuff. And do you get the same impression as I do from the name? Like, does it seem like kind of a scammy name to you, or it really surprises me because of like how much I was surprised if you watch the Mogul playlist. So I have a playlist for every video, every property that I've looked at on here and whatnot. And if you look at my very first video, that was just my initial impression, right? Like I just it seems odd, but I think it's like I don't know. And a lot of the properties are named after the early ones are named after like characters from that show Billionaire. But I think they're just young guys having fun that made this company, and I think that you can tell from their webinar that they have a certain sense of humor, and whether or not it's for you. I think it's funny because I can picture some like more, old guys like me that maybe lean a little bit more curmudgeonly, might think, oh, I'd never invest with those guys because they just seem like, a little bit silly almost. But honestly, like whenever you ask them questions about the actual business, I think they're real serious and sharp. So I don't mind it, but I do think that sometimes in their marketing, it does come across as, um, it is that I'm going to get this, roped into a multi-level marketing scam or something, right? The first impressions just from that, like, ooh, do you want to get rich? You want to be a real estate mogul? But that's is really my only criticism of them. So I don't know. I don't know if I'd wear the merch or not. But I thought it was interesting it's coming out. I probably will get one. Then I can wear it whenever a shirt or a hat or something to wear whenever I do my mogul videos. That would be ideal. Anyway, that's I think everything from the webinar. Maybe I saved you 10 minutes from not, watching this instead of that. Actually, hopefully I'm a little bit shorter. But also just wanted to give you some of that color on the questions that I had and what their answers, what I think they meant for me. Um, but then, as far as this new Lofty Assist feature, I think this is fantastic. So Limas put this together. It's something we had talked about a couple times. So he's doing a market cap index over time. Obviously he's limited to how long he's been collecting data for. Lofty's not. They don't have this data that they're sharing with anybody, which is one of my biggest, you know, criticisms of Lofty. Is they just don't. They're not good about providing any historic info. But so this is, he's doing a market cap index, which is like weighted average tokens, sort of like how the S&P 500 index works, total market cap, and then average token price. And I think this is such useful information to be able to just look at and think of like, okay, how is the Lofty ecosystem doing in general? Right. And you can see like since, if you think about like when all the Yom stuff started to happen, man, we're down far since then, right? Average token price right now is $35.25. Let's see, if it was 36, that'd be 40. So, on average, people are down, wait a minute, what? 14, like 28%, is the average that you're down, a little bit more than that. Um, that's horrible, right? Like it is, um, is that right? 28 and a half, 70, 29 and a half. Anyway, I'm not going to try to do math in my head anymore. Sorry about that. But that's a horrible return, on average, right? And some of the people in the Discord mentioned, well, yeah, and this isn't even taken into account some of the properties that have sold for even lower than that are off the platform. And and I think that's true. It also, though, doesn't take into account some of the ones that sold for higher. I know I was involved in the Avenue L sale, and we got over $40 a token on that. But yeah, and honestly, it doesn't have to look any worse than this for me to really be worried about it, right? I mean, it's just a problem. If think about it, if are a new investor coming to Lofty and you see this, it's really bad news, right? That on average, people have lost 28, 29 plus percent. Um, He also, oh, the other feature that he's got on here too is if you click on the properties, this has been here before, but it disappeared for a little while. But if you click this summary button, you can see the average yield on the platform. That's not great either, right? A lot of people think they're buying 20% yields on here. Well, on average, you're not. And even though most of them started with a real high number, right? So, and this is interesting. This has a different average market price. It's because this is using all the properties you can access, where I think that other one is really just using the ones that they have live on their marketplace tab. So like there are quite a few properties that are taken off. If they're listed for sale, they've been taken off. some of the ones, I think the ones that have the deeds in question right now with the Yom issues, those I think those are not on the marketplace as well. Um, but so yeah, I like this. I think this is helpful, and I really like that we're going to be able to track this over time. Because if you think about it, they're launching new properties. The total market cap, I mean, it's probably what's creating spikes in the market cap. I'm not sure. But having the big sell-offs, and you can see like this is around Lofty Day, right? Like, I mean, you're getting these big moves whenever we're getting new income info and whatnot. Excuse me. But it is just, I don't know. It's sort of depressing. I love the feature, but actually seeing how this is operating in real life is pretty depressing. I am still investing on here because I'm still making money, but I'm bought my average. I wish I had I'll have to go back and calculate what my average token purchase is, but it's definitely at least in the low 20s, and it might actually be high. It's probably low 20s is my average because I have a couple that I've bought in the 50s, and I guess I have a lot that I've bought in the mid 20s. So I don't know, somewhere around there though. Right? Maybe 25 bucks, maybe 20. Somewhere between 20 and 25 bucks is probably a good estimate. And so, yeah, when you look at that, yes, you can make money. But if you look at like the average performance of properties from the time they were added to the platform till today, it's pretty bleak. And I think that keeping track of this info is really useful, right? Because over time, one, if it starts moving up considerably, it'd be good to know. It's a good sign for the future. But if it continues to move down, I mean, it makes me I really have worried about the future of Lofty a lot lately. If they can't figure out how to bring good deals to the platform, and also how to attract investors that are smart enough not to buy the terrible deals, because some of them, I start to feel bad, right? Initially I feel really bad for people, but some of these, like, it's just to me the answer of not investing in the deals was pretty obvious on the front end. And I know I have a lot of experience in real estate investing, but if you don't, I think it's even more important to dig into deals more, to be even more conservative in the way you're approaching these. And so, like, I mean, the most obvious recent one is the Brownfield deal. Like, it didn't make, I really wanted to buy a multifamily in Lubbock, right? Like, it was like I was trying to figure out how that deal could work, and I just could not get comfortable with it at all. Like, it made no sense to me. And seeing how many people put a lot of money into it was very surprising. And so, like, one, it should have been obvious. Like, they're not, Lofty, I feel like has to gatekeep their marketplace a little bit better, right? Like, they have to, the people that bring a property on there have to provide a little bit more clarity, a little bit better due diligence, especially once it's a commercial property, where it's a little bit harder to figure out. And, I mean, not not bringing deals on that have this ridiculous bridge loan, might be one thing, or like, where it has to have a rent credit to sell out, or where the deal just doesn't work if the co-owner doesn't pay the debt. Like all these things, I think, the fundamentals of the deal, I think they could have some like very loose metrics that say, hey, if you don't at least have this floor, you can't list on here, right? I don't know, but then at the same time, like investors who are buying on here should have those same things in mind, right? I know that I didn't mean to get on a lofty rant. It is it's hard to look at this average token price and not think that. I really just wanted to point out that this feature exists now. I didn't figure out where the button was. He just sent me the link, but at the moment it's loftyassist.com/property/JCHI. I think that probably stands for the Joe Cacioppolia Housing Index, but I'm not positive. Um, I mean, what else could it be really? Maybe it should be token index. I don't know. Maybe we should have a T there, but anyway, I think it's a cool feature. It is going to be useful to track, performance over time. And one of the things that'll be interesting to see is how much cyclicality we have around the lofty days, right? Around the days where they update their financials. Um, People have talked about, oh, should we put out a Lofty ETF? And every time somebody mentions that, I say definitely not because you're just going to lose money on average. Um, but over time, if you start to have better performance, maybe that would make sense. Or, I don't know if you're familiar with stock trading at all, but there used to be a popular strategy called the dogs of the Dow, which was basically like you buy the worst performers of the Dow Industrial Average. And so maybe something like that, right, where you buy like all the cheapest ones, like all the worst performing ones, all the zero yield ones. I don't know. I think there would be interesting ways that you could have like, groups of ones where it's bought. But honestly, I think there's way too many trash properties on the platform to do that, right? I think like the only way to make money is to really do your due diligence. And so it is funny, like when I compare Lofty, I just said all these great things about Mogul, and I don't mean to like be pushing you one way or the other, because my returns on Lofty at the moment are higher than on Mogul, but it's coming from other people losing money on Lofty, right? It's because you can trade. It's because there's the counterparties or other people who are making bad decisions relative to their, the token price and the real world asset. Where on Mogul, it's really just they're offering a deal. I think on average it's a very good deal, and I'm taking it, right? And so, um, I don't know. I get kind of, I know I sort of say the same things over and over again. Hopefully, saying it in maybe a little bit different way or with a different comparison can be useful sometimes. If not, I just really wanted to draw your attention to this is great. I hope in the future, as time goes on, it'll be interesting to see how this tracks. Um, it'll be interesting to see, does this track seasonally, right? Because a lot of the STRs do better in certain seasons. Like, do we start to see some seasonal fluctuations overall? Do prices spike during tax time because you have people reinvest then? Like a lot of weird stuff happens at that time of year. Do they tank more around Christmas time because people are not investing as much because they're spending, on presents? Like all those sorts of things, it's why historical data it becomes super interesting, right? Because you can start to see trends. Um, at the same time, I'm not really a technical trends analysis type person. I want to know I'm making a good fundamental decision based on the intrinsic value of what I'm buying. But it's still interesting to look at this. Uh, and I think really it's just more damning of their model than it is anything else, right? Like if these properties all are worth more or on average are worth significantly more in real life than they are on the platform, then there's that means the platform's broken, right? Like you shouldn't fractionalize this stuff, give access to more people to invest in it, and it's worth less. And I think it has a lot to do with they don't have a good system of running properties. Anyway, I'm not going to get into that again. You guys know all the issues. If you want to see some, I definitely have some good rants about Lofty, and I think they're easy to find. Look up like losing money on Lofty and stuff like that on my channel. And there's probably hours of me talking about what they're doing wrong. So until next time, I'm just going to keep making this. Oh, tickle the like button, do the thing with the bell. Uh, Jump in the Discord and let's talk about any of this stuff, all of it, none of it. Keep with the Suno songs. I love those in there. I know that is a little bit of a distraction, but I think that is, I don't know. I'm really enjoying a lot of those songs. So, anyway, if you don't know what I'm talking about, join the Discord. Until next time, I'm going to keep making mistakes so that you don't have to.